you are having a fantastic weekend. Welcome back to my back garden, as many of you are now familiar with. It's been a crazy week, and I hope that wherever you are and whatever you've done, that you are staying safe and the people that you care about are also safe. I don't know if this camera can pick it up, if the microphone can pick it up, but there are chicks cheeping very loudly back in the house. I'm outside because it's a better quality lighting and video outside, but I will be going inside later to show you the chicks, maybe a little bit later on in today's stream. So for those of you who don't know, we picked up our chicks this week, and my wife is still busy building the chicken coop. She's made fantastic progress. If you follow her on Twitter, she is at Americate, so AMERIKATE, Americate. She has been building the chicken coop this week. She's had a couple of days off work. She's basically been so busy with work, up to and including what's been going on, that she'd banked, I think, like 100+ hours of off time, paid holidays, so she's taking some of them now to build the chicken coop, which I'm very glad for. You can't hear them, says Jim. I'm sorry to hear that, but you will come and we will see them later. Hello to everybody who's watching in Periscope as well. So we've got two chats going live at the same time. We've got Periscope, and then we've got the main channel. Obviously, I'm not going to show you the chicks outside because it's cold. It's what, maybe 13 or 14 degrees Celsius out here. The chicks are 3 days old, and they're not going to be able to be outside in this kind of weather. So I did do a live Periscope yesterday with the chicks. You may or may not have seen that. We'll see. So please excuse me, I've got some smudges on my glasses. What a terrible way to start the day. There we go. And from Texas, hello, Lars, welcome. Hello, Lincoln Squirrel in Periscope. Hello, Jim. Hello, Blur Blur, Bill Blur even. Any news from the German A-car TUM for Africa? No, not yet. But one of the things we want to do more of is do more interviews with people based around the world, doing stuff with community projects and affordable transportation. Gosh, my hands are really dry today. It's because I've been washing my hands so much. It's not so good. Your blood batteries video is the best ever video you've made and the best electric car video of all time. Thank you very much. It's very kind of you to say that. I know lots of people didn't like it. Some people did. The animation that we're working on, I know I said it would be this week. A bit of a confession here. I have no clue how long it takes to animate things, and we're just trying to make that all work a little bit better. On what media do you make the most money on a view? YouTube at the moment. Well, YouTube used to be, but we have really started to struggle this week. I'm not going to lie to you guys. So on an average, towards the end of 2019, when things were going really well, when people were really confident and the markets were good and everybody was happy, we were making between $3,000 and $4,500 a month on ad revenue from YouTube. That was paying salary, and it was paying some of the accommodation for things like CES and Fully Charged Live, but it was also paying for us to expand our production, to bring more people in, to do more stuff. You combine that with the kind of the 3 and a bit that we were getting from Patreon at the time, and some money from other projects, and we were doing okay. I was able to pay myself just below minimum wage, just below. I think I've worked it out. It was probably the equivalent of about $10 an hour I pay myself. So yeah, it's minimum wage in this area, I think. But anyway, it's actually probably less than that. I was probably closer to 6 I was paying myself, to be honest, because I was doing like 40-hour weeks. Anyway, I was paying myself about $2,000 a month. And we were doing okay, but this month our ad revenue has dropped. If I tell you that it's I think it had analysed through to the 18th, and it had said we'd earned about $900 this month from ad revenue, and you can kind of see that we are starting to worry. It's because the reason why our ad revenues were so good previously is because we're an automotive channel and we appeal to car companies, and so when we make a video about a car, Google's automated system puts ads on for cars that are rival to said car, and that was doing really well for us. We were doing really well off that, but of course now car companies are going, we don't know if we can afford to spend money on these ads. It's really starting to kick us in the teeth, and that's not so good. All the channels are saying ad rates have crashed. Views are up, but they are paying nothing. It's true. Our ad revenue for the month of, as I say, it was our ad revenue for April. See what it says, because I looked at it the other day. $961.47 for the month of April, which is, pretty terrible. If you go back to December, we earned $4,300. So you can tell there's a big difference in our ad revenue, and obviously we have to still pay everything. At the end of the day, I'm going to continue to pay my employee because she's really important to me in terms of the growth of the channel. She's also a good friend. I had someone from a local government body this week suggest that I lay her off, and I'm like, no, that's not going to happen. I want to keep my employee paid, and I'm going to have to pay my rent until the end of July, and then once July is over we can breathe a sigh of relief, because at the moment we're spending $1,200 a month for a studio that we're not allowed to use, and we're not allowed out of the contract. There's no force majeure, there's no act of God or anything. We have to pay the rent until the end of that period. If we were to stop paying rent, then that would have bad things for my own personal credit rating. I'm not willing to do that. But hey, good news is that the air quality is really good right now. I've got asthma, I think, developing, which I'm not happy about, and I'm not sure if it's a side effect of me developing coronavirus-like symptoms, or whether it was because I was sick with something else. But I've got this lingering cough that just will not go away. And there's stuff in my lungs that I can just I had a doctor check my lungs out and they said we couldn't hear anything. But I'm coughing if I I tried to go out for a run a couple of weeks ago, and I just ended up having a really bad asthma attack when I got back and was coughing a lot. And I mean, that's always been a thing since I was little. If I went running and it was really cold, I'd have a bit of an asthma attack. But I want to get back into improved exercise, and I know that that's probably part of the problem, and I know someone in the chat will probably call me a fat cow, but that's okay. Self-deprecation is allowed. Alright, been lurking on Sometime Enjoying Your Content, still working from home, so thought it was finally time to become a patron. Thank you, Bruce, that's really nice of you, thank you so much. Hi, says Mark, I hope you and your family are all good and doing well. We are doing fine. I realised the other day, as people were asking about the garden, I realised the other day, and I'm going to get up and move here, I realised that we have the ability, once we take the camera off here, to actually show you a little bit more of the garden. So let's see if we can do that gently. There's a woodpecker over there doing woodpeckery things. So let's see if we can do this without pulling the camera off, without damaging it. There we go. I'd done this so that I couldn't actually easily pull it off, but looks like I did it rather too well. I do apologise. Woo! Round and round. Alright, let's put the platform back, and then I can put the camera back on later. So, for those of you who are interested, this is what the drop down to our garden looks like. So, this week, there's a hole there in the garden that I dug because we had Spanish alum, which caused all kinds of problems. Not Spanish, Italian alum, which caused all kinds of problems down there. I had to dig it up, and there's another one behind that tree which I'm going to dig up either today or tomorrow in time for trash day. But over here you can see that we've got our vegetable plots, lots of cool things growing in the vegetable garden. When I fix the Wi-Fi, I'll maybe do a proper walk around the garden. And then over here, we've got our fruit trees coming in, so all well and good. Let me put this back on here, and then we can resume where we were. Hi. So, because of this quarantine, says Joshua, I am putting an exercise bike in front of my TV. Well, that's one of the things I want to do today. Is we have an exercise bike, but when we moved from the UK to the US, it broke, and we didn't really realise it had broken until about 4 months ago, when we actually got it out of its box for the first time since 2015, and we discovered that there are problems. Houses in the US are huge. They are. Not all houses, but some houses. Sorry, I'm just going to adjust this slightly. There we go. Yeah, not all houses, but some houses for sure are pretty huge. Columbia calling, says Jodie. Yeah, it's very nice. Are you from Bristol in the UK? No, I'm originally from Norwich, or from Norfolk, but I used to live in Bristol. So I lived in Bristol for about 10 years. And it's kind of funny because the place where Robert Llewellyn and his team are based, or they were, I don't know if they've still got the office there because of what's going on right now, but the place they are based, the business park they are based at, was the business park that I actually looked at getting an office in before they considered moving there. So how crazy is that? We could have been in the same building. That would have just been just bizarre. So, you know, those are strange. Will says some states allow you to collect unemployment if your hours or wages significantly decrease. Possible? I don't know. I mean, I've been looking into it and I'm not entirely sure because of some of the issues there. Someone's guessing the steampunk is the t-shirt. Not quite. It's more electric car related. Ever tried water only fasting for 21 days? It's very healthy. No, I haven't. I have to be really careful because we have a thing in our family called a long QT. I mentioned it in a video recently. It basically means that your heart doesn't beat properly all the time, and it's affected by potassium absorption in your heart. Your heart doesn't deal with potassium properly, and it's an electrical problem. And it means I'm on beta blockers for this, which is one of the reasons why I've gained a lot of weight over the last couple of years, is because I've been on beta blockers. And I desperately want to get off the beta blockers, so slowly things are becoming easier for me, which is good. How does if you ended up in the same building, says Stefan, you could have merged the channels. Yeah, I could have done. Still waiting on my rad power bike. I rode one at Fully Charged Live back in February, says Joshua Smith. I hope you watched our review. It's one of my favourite bikes. One of my local friends bought one for himself and his wife recently. He really likes them, and he hasn't come and seen me with it here, but he's come to the studio. All right. How does one approach buying a used Volt? Would a typical pre-purchase inspection be enough? Now, honestly, I don't know what pre-purchase inspections cover, and that's a really, really interesting question there. One of the challenges that I see with all of this is that when you are dealing with a pre-purchase inspection, they normally cover things like: has the car been serviced regularly? Is there any rust? Is there any corrosion? Do the mechanical parts work? And in an electric car, obviously, you can check the brakes, that's fine. But what you really want to check is the state of the battery. Now, one of the good things about the Volt with a V is that the battery packs in those are not notorious, are legendary for having a pretty good long life. There was a guy called Eric Belmer who drove his Bolt EV, I think, more than 500,000 miles, if memory serves, before it started to have problems. And I don't think that would have any problems. So what I would want to do is to get an USB D2 dongle, an onboard diagnostic 2 dongle, and I would reach out to your local Electric Auto Association, your local EAA. There should be somebody in your local EAA. Obviously, they support Transport Evolved, just as a disclaimer, and we're members, just as a disclaimer. They should have somebody locally, especially if you live in one of the large metropolitan areas, who would be able to help you check out that battery and make sure that it's okay. But generally, I find that there's not a whole lot to worry about with Volts, because they have a thermally managed battery pack and they don't use all of the battery capacity within the cell. I think the Bolt and the Volt are one of the most underrated EVs in history. Amazing cars at a great price. Bill, I kind of agree with you. I love my Bolt and I'm not intending to sell it anytime soon. Do you talk to Eric on News Coolum about his Bolt? He has over 120,000 miles. I do occasionally. I haven't spoken to him for a while. I know that I do watch his videos quite regularly. I know he had a 2020 recently for a while. I don't know if he purchased one, but there we go. We Back Tesla has just joined in Patreon, not Patreon, Periscope. Hello, good to see you. Steampunk 5250, I like that name. I do. For those who don't know, I am in fact a steampunk also. So I like myself a bit of steampunk. I love the steampunk musicians. I think a lot of them are really talented folks. I've been watching a lot of SPG lately. They've been doing live streams, Steam Powered Giraffe, if you don't know who they are, and I also obviously like Professor Elemental, and I cover some of his songs actually on as Queenie Dearheart, one of my characters, covers Professor Elemental raps, and she sometimes raps herself. I think coronavirus is just a late flu, spring summer flu, maybe due to climate change shifting the seasons and mutating the flu, says Bill. I don't know if I would agree with you there, Bill. I think that you know, viruses do mutate all the time. That you know, they are very different to colds in how they are transmitted and how they change over time, and so I think that is something that we're going to see more of these viruses as we increasingly have an overpopulated world. I'm lucky here. There's not another person. Well, I mean, there's a house. There's a couple of houses near me, but I couldn't throw a ball to my neighbour's house, and I couldn't throw a ball to my neighbour's house over there, and I definitely couldn't throw a ball through the woods to my neighbour's house on the other side. So we are very sparsely populated here, and I think we just all need to spread out a bit. I think that would help. Do you follow the Plug Seeker from the UK? I do. I like the Plug Seeker. We talk occasionally. What do I think of the 5G controversy? I think you probably mean the crazy idiots in the UK who are burning down the 5G towers because they are literally petrified of the fact that somebody has convinced them that it's a conspiracy to mind control and take down the world and give everybody the flu and what else. And the reality is here, honestly, that is complete bollocks. 5G antennas produce non-ionizing radiation. Non-ionizing radiation. Yes, they're operating near the microwave spectrum, but no, it's not enough to fry your brain because the power level of the 5G transmitters is tiny, really small, compared to a lot of the other transmitters we have in our daily lives. 5G radio transmitters are not very high power. It's not a reputable claim, as someone said in the chat. It's what happens when people no longer think about science. People no longer embrace science and technology, whether we're talking about life sciences, whether we're talking about physics, whether we're talking about theoretical physics, astrophysics, electronics, and even things like mechanical engineering, which I consider a science. Mechanical engineering is, I consider a science in a lot of the ways that you go about improving and building on it. And I think the society that we live in today has made being smart uncool for a lot of people, and that saddens me. Because knowledge is the one thing that we humans have that is kind of our biggest achievement, is knowledge. Our ability to amass knowledge, store knowledge, disseminate knowledge. You know, it's incredible what we've been able to do as a society, as a species, because of our ability to gain knowledge, manage knowledge, and share knowledge. Between a 2017 Prius Prime and a first gen Volt, which one would you take over? Which one would you buy? Every time it would be the Volt, and here's why. The Prius Prime still doesn't have a fully electric mode. It still kicks its engine on if you push it hard enough. Now, yes, you get that extra 5th seat in the Prius Prime, which you don't get in the Chevrolet Volt, that first generation Chevrolet Volt. Is it the 5 seat? I think they did have 5 seats in the Prius Prime, unless I'm wrong and it's 4 seats. After I said that, my brain went, no, it's 4 seats. I can't remember. Someone can correct me. If they've both got 4 seats, then yes, go with the Volt every time. If they've got 5 seats and you need 5, then obviously a second generation Volt, which has that weird, not really a middle seat, but you can use it in an emergency. Or the Prime has, I think. So there we go. Knowledge is power, guard it well. 40k Warhammer quote. Now there's something I haven't played for a long time. 40k. Goodness, Warhammer. Haven't played Warhammer. Never really got into Warhammer. But I had a couple of friends who let me play sometimes. So I did that sometimes. So so there you go. And you know, talking about science and talking about everything else. So talking about the Volt. Go back to buy the Volt. I'd buy the Volt over the Toyota anytime. Back to knowledge and power and responsibility. I'm really saddened by the people who are protesting right now, going out and protesting about my civil right, my First Amendment and Second Amendment rights. I want to go back and do my shopping and not wear a mask and go to work. So effing irresponsible to do that, because those of us who have not succumbed to this are likely to encounter it in the future, and we will either survive or we will become sick. But we've got no way of knowing who will become immune and who will become sick and die, because we haven't yet developed a reliable testing algorithm for that purpose. We haven't even got we haven't even got a test for the antibodies up and running yet, and we need that before we can start letting people out. The UK at some point, and I think other countries as well, talked about the idea of having some form of testing, so you could see if essentially if you were sick or not, or if you were immune or not, and it was a way of being able to figure out if you were safe, if you could go back to work. So that's, you know, until we've got that, I wouldn't want to do that. Someone says, Simon says, in Denmark they're switching off, well, actually moving some of the TV transmissions to free the frequencies up for 5G. And some of the, I mean, that's again, TV transmissions in the US used to use the 5G, what is now going to become the 5G network. Sorry, my hands are cold. So I'm, so there you go. Mark says, the first Prius Prime had 4 seats and the update Prime has 5 seats. Thank you. I couldn't remember. And then when you asked the question, I was like, not entirely sure. All right. So, 3D printing, that's a thing. It's going to happen. I set myself aside a little bit of money every month. I'm not very good at spending money on myself. I never have been very good at spending money on myself. I'd rather spend money on someone else or something else, or supporting a charity or something. I'm not very good at spending money on myself. It's one of the reasons why my wardrobe sucks, because I'll look at an outfit and go, I'm not paying $50 for that. So I end up with hoodies and things like that. This hoodie is different. I accidentally ordered this one, actually, by accident, and I don't wear it very often. I'll show it to you. There you go. It's the Elon Musk having a toke. But the reason that we have an account, I have a personal savings account that I put a little bit of money in every month, was my wife's insistence that we did that, and she's got one and I've got one, and so we've got our own projects. And I've been saving money in that for a really long time, and I've managed to save up enough money to buy a 3D printer. And I really wanted a 3D printer. I've wanted one for a really long time, and so I've purchased a Creality Ender 3 Pro, which will be arriving, I think, probably at the end of the month, beginning of next. It's a DIY assemble job. You have to assemble it yourself. The Ender 3 Pro is a really cheap 3D printer, and is open source. And the good thing about that is that you can completely modify it and replace parts and do all of that. And so I am going to excuse me. I am going to cannot get rid of this. There you go. I am going to put a new mainboard in it, an upgraded mainboard to make it more quiet, because the original control board for the Ender 3 Pro is not great. So I'm going to switch out from an 8-bit processor control board to an SKI 1.4 from Big Tree Tech. And it has got improved stepper motor controllers, and it's a 32-bit controller itself, the main board. So much more powerful. I'm going to integrate that with a Raspberry Pi and a touchscreen interface, so that we'll be able to remotely monitor the printer from other parts of the house. I'm also going to upgrade the hot end, which is the bit that actually does the printing. So I'm going to upgrade that. I've actually bought a pattern part on AliExpress. First time ever buying on AliExpress. I thought, hey, I might as well try this out. My good friend Kate Watton-Elliott does a lot of AliExpress buying, and she bought a solder station. So it's a hot air rework station and also a soldering iron. She bought one of those from AliExpress, and I actually said to her a couple of weeks ago, hey, where did you buy yours? Because I need one. I've not had a really good soldering iron since moving here, because I've not needed one. But we have to fix some now. Obviously money is tight at Transport Evolved. One of our microphone cables has started to die, and so the microphone itself is fine, but I need to redo the plug. So I've got some new TTRS plugs that I'm going to put on one of our lav mics and hopefully fix that. In fact, you'll notice it from the last video we've got from CES, which hopefully will come out this week, was the Sony car, and we had a microphone die on us midway through that. So you'll notice suddenly the sound sounds weird, and it's because this microphone, the connector had become intermittent and it started causing problems. Will says diet is key. Most people hospitalized by the virus have underlying health issues caused by diet. I understand what you're saying, and I think a lot of health issues can be addressed by a better diet. My diet is actually really healthy. I just eat too much. I'm going to just admit that. Portion size is a challenge for me, and always has been, because I used to exercise a butt ton. I used to cycle 50 miles a day when I graduated. I grew up on a dairy farm. I was always out doing stuff, running, helping with stuff on the farm or gardening or whatever. And as I've got older, my metabolism has slowed down, and because I'm on this medication, my metabolism slowed down. And so even though I'm eating a lot of fresh fruit and vegetables, I don't eat a lot of butter, I don't eat a lot of margarine, I don't eat a lot of processed foods. It's just, yeah, I need to attack that, but you're totally right. My solution to fight climate change, says MQ Neugen. Improve women's education and fertility rights. Less childbirth is better long-term strategy. Yeah, we do need to make birth control and family planning a right, not a privilege, for absolutely every single person on this planet. It really troubles me, some of the things that are happening right now in the name of health and safety and protecting people. You know, stopping selective abortions and things is just wrong at the moment. Why do BMWs have such average battery range? They are the greatest ever car company, but their EVs is just an average range. Are they waiting for solid state to really let it loose? I don't know. I think I think challenges with batteries and what I think BMW's never really had a good battery partner, as far as I'm aware, that's been able to develop the technology. And the other thing to remember is that the LG Chem battery in the Bolt, and I think also in the Volt, was developed in conjunction with LG Chem. They helped develop and design the battery for that car. And in the case of the Bolt, they also helped design the drivetrain and the power electronics. So it's all made by somebody who understands the battery really intrinsically, which is, you know, really important. So back to the 3D printer. We're going to put a new hot end in, and do some other modifications. And my goal, the first project, is hopefully going to be printing a charge door adapter for the Chevrolet Bolt, so that you can use the Electrify America charging stations without having to hold the charge connector up. I also have a friend with a Chevy Spark EV, and she cannot use those rapid charging stations for various reasons, so I'm hoping that I can do something there to help her as well. BMW has stated that they want to wait for the solid state battery tech. I mean, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. Alright, so we're going to try something that we've never tried before, and we're going to try it in a very careful manner. So what we're going to do is I'm going to finish my coffee, talk to you for a bit more, and then I'm going to give you a bit of a tour. Now, I've got a really long Ethernet cable attached to this laptop, so my hope is that we can go for a little bit of a trip without worrying about what's going to happen to the battery or anything else. Yum. Alright, so the other thing I want to do is I want to do some CNC milling with this printer. You can get a laser cutter for it, but you can also build, I didn't realise this, you can build a 3D printed CNC machine. If you've got some woodworking skills and you've got all the electronics, you can make a CNC machine. Of course, we're going to have to do that. That would be just amazing. When I go inside, I'll also talk you through some of the things I've done with the Raspberry Pi. I don't know if you're following me on Twitter, but if you follow @AMinerJourney on Twitter, obviously if you're watching me on Periscope, keep your eyes open for a #chick tweets, and those are the chick photos that are being automatically uploaded from my Raspberry Pi to Dropbox, and then if this then that, it's pulling those from Dropbox and pushing them to Twitter and Telegram as well, if you have Telegram. And the cool thing about that is that hopefully we'll be able to track the chicks' growth as they get older. So I'll talk you through that in a second. Someone says, don't 3D printers just add to the plastic problem? Well, depends what kind of plastic you use. There are now some 3D materials that are plant-based plastics, which are a lot better to use. You can also print in other materials as well. So yeah, if you're just printing a lot of plastics that are not made in an ethical manner, or use fossil fuels, then obviously you are making things worse. But you can buy plant-based plastics now for 3D printers. So I'm okay with that. Obviously, also with if you're doing whatchamacallit, if you're doing a CNC stuff, you're using wood to cut the wood, or if you're using the laser, you're using laser to cut the wood as well. Kate One Elliot has a laser cutter as well, so she's been telling me all the good things she can do with it. And she sent me a little plaque recently for my office, which is very cute. And we might make some 3D printed stuff for you guys if you're a patron of the channel, which would be really cool. Alrighty, so let me just check on something here on the stream. I hope that you're all doing something cool today, and I hope it's nice where you are. This afternoon my plan is to finish planting some more of my garden. I lost some of my seeds, misplaced them, did weird things with them, but now I found them, we can fix that problem. Alright, now I've taken care of my coffee, I'm going to put this inside, and then I'm going to show you the chicks, and we're going to talk about how we worked with a Raspberry Pi to fix all of that. Don't know if you heard that. There's a woodpecker over there making a lot of noise. All right, let's try this really carefully. Without dropping anything, without breaking anything, without making anything fall apart. Let's see if I can undo this and undo this and not drop that and not drop that. Okay, here we go. So the reason why we are on a connection like this is because our internet connection, we have a pretty big house. It's like 2,000 square feet. And our internet, our Wi-Fi is not very strong outside. And I've tried streaming before from outside. It's not very strong. So I'm going to bring you all back inside so you can see the chickens. And I'm going to be good. I'm going to shut the door behind me. Now you get to see the hidden bit of the house. I tend not to show my house off all that much. We have a lot of retro computers. We also have Ethernet sockets on every single wall. Look, check this out. We have Ethernet sockets on the wall, and that means that when we're doing a live stream, I just jack into the wall. Alright. Here we go. Let's see if we can find the chickens. So I'm going to sit here and hopefully if I sit down here and I bring this down, this here is my Lavender Orpington. She is a hi buddy, as well as my border collie. Ethernet is always better than Wi-Fi, every single time, really, without question. Alright, so, hi guys. No, nose out please. Nose out. So these are my chicks. We've got 7. There's 7 chicks in total, and they are, what, 3 days old now? So they are really, really, really beautiful. I am trying my best to learn all of the different breeds. Some of them are very similar in their breeds. Like there's 3 chicks that I'm not great on remembering which one is which breed. But this one here is a black copper Marantz, and she has the most amazing colour on her head. She looks like a little Egyptian. She really is absolutely amazing, and she's grown already in just a short number of days. She is French black copper Marantz are a heritage breed. These are all heritage breeds. They all came from a humane breeder who doesn't do anything nasty with the chicks. And all of the chicks came in a really good condition. I'm going to put you back inside, Princess, okay? Can I just check you for pasty butt while you're there? No, you're good. Alright. And this one here, this one here is the loudest of the bunch. She is a Lavender Orpington. And Lavender Orpingtons are a version of they're related obviously to the Buff Orpington. We also have a Buff Orpington in there. It's the yellow one. It's the Buff Orpington. And the Lavender Orpingtons and the Buff Orpingtons are known for being great mums. So if we ever have any broody hens, it's most likely to be either the Buff Orpington or this Lavender Orpington lady here. But they're all wonderful. This one fell asleep on me yesterday. What is, they get to be under there, and they'll be inside for the next 5.5, 6 weeks. And then if they're fully feathered and they've grown enough, they can go outside. I'm going to put you back in the box, in the brooder box. There we go. So those are our chicks. We've got a nipple-based feeder here. So they peck at the water, so they get the fresh water out. We've got a little bit of apple cider vinegar in there. It helps as like a probiotic. They've been vaccinated against coccidiosis, which means that they shouldn't suffer some of the health-related issues that a lot of chicks you're going to get from like a hatchery and stuff like that. So they're generally doing really well, really, really well. Let's answer some of these. All right. How many do we have? We have 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 7th one is hiding under here. So one of them is one of them tends to hang around a little, you know, less frequently. But if I put my hand in here, chuk chuk, chuk chuk chuk, chuk chuk, chuk chuk, chuk chuk. This one tends to not be around as much as the others. This one spends a lot of time in the brooder, in the heat. So I think they feel the heat a little bit, feel the cold a little bit more. We think this is probably our rooster. So we've asked for one rooster. So hopefully it's this little one. That's my guess based on the marking. Some breeds are auto-sexing, so you can tell pretty easily, and I think this one is a roux. You are actually nice and warm because you've been under in the heater. So yeah, so there you go. In terms of names, we are going to name these. Where are you going? Where are you going? In terms of names, we are going to name these after famous female scientists. We had someone suggest that the rooster gets called Stephen after Professor Hawking, which I think is kind of nice. So there you go. Let me show you. All right, let's have a look at the chat. I just want to make sure that that you can all hear me and you can all see me. All right. What will be their diet once they start producing eggs? So we're going to be using like a chick feed for them. We'll also be using, hey, what are you guys doing? We're also going to be using some chicken grit. So this is their feed in here. It's like from a local organic farm store, actually just down the road. So this is really good. Chick, 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 chick. And I'm just getting them used to me being, you know, feeding from my hand and all that. They come and they peck and they're very happy. I don't know if you can even see that. They're quite happily pecking away. All 7 of them. They're all eating, they're all drinking, which is really good. We've also got some grit in there, because what you might not know is that chickens use grit to digest their food. They have to have grit, which is why you see them scratching and pecking in the dirt. They have a special organ, effectively, that stores the grit and helps them grind up their food. It's really cool. Chickens are really amazing creatures. They really are. You know, and it's amazing the things you learn about chickens and birds in general just by having them. All right, let's talk about our webcam that we've got set up here. When the rooster wakes you at sunrise, will you still love him? I hope so. We could call the smallest one Grace Hopper, maybe. I know Grace was one of the names that we were considering, along with Marie Curie and also Sally Ride. Alright, so let's pop this. My wife made this just to keep the chicks safe. Goes over the top of the chicken coop. So what we've got here is a first generation Raspberry Pi, a Raspberry Pi B, first generation B, and out the graphical user interface. It's just powered by a USB adapter plugged in down here next to the brooder. And this is an old Logitech Pro camera pointing in, obviously, into the feeder. And we have a cron job on here. Cron jobs is basically a way of automating to tell a computer to run a certain thing every so many minutes or seconds or hours or days. Cron is an amazing program. It allows you to basically it allows you to basically automate a lot of stuff. It's an amazing, incredible program. I love it to bits. And so we've got a cron job that snaps a photograph every 20 seconds. Sorry, every 10 seconds it takes a photograph, and it uploads that, it stores that on the SD card. And then every evening we're going to do a motion, basically do a time-lapse video. We'll make a time-lapse video of the chicks' activities for the day, and we'll upload it to YouTube or something. It runs from 6 AM through until 8 PM, because obviously at night time we want to try and not, there's no need to run it at night, because the chicks are generally asleep. I think they were up last night. I did run it through the light last night, and there was a couple of occasions where they came out and got some water and then went back to bed. Just like we do, which is kind of fun. So it runs, I think, 5 or 6 times a minute. And then there's a separate cron job that takes a photograph every 20 minutes and uploads that to Dropbox. And then there's a program, something called If This Then That. You may or may not have heard of it. And If This Then That keeps an eye on the Dropbox folder, particular folder I've specified. And if there's a new photo that's uploaded to that folder, it will then tweet it with the hashtag #ChickTweets. And so that is what we're doing. So the #ChickTweets tag on my Twitter 3 times an hour for the daylight hours. Again, it's not running at night time. And you get to see the chicks grow in real time. Sometimes they'll take a photograph and there'll be nobody there and there's nothing there. They're all under the brooder plate now. But other times they'll be out and about and feeding and having fun. So it's a really good way of keeping track of how the chicks are doing. All right. See if I can put that back. I'm also going to run, we're going to do the same thing with our bird feeder, because we've got a couple of bird feeders. What I really want to do is use other Raspberry Pis to have motion capture, so we can see when birds are at the feeder. And I think eventually this is going to go and live in the chicken coop. We'll just have a camera in the chicken coop. It's a good way of keeping an eye on the chickens and seeing what they're doing. Do you have the brooder plate set to 2 different heights? Allows for some chicks getting taller than others. We don't. It's just a one height, but then you raise it up. It's got screws, and you literally just turn the screw and you can lift it every day. So some of the chickens, it's a really good point, because some of the breeds, like the Brahma, who is currently kicking up a storm right here. The Brahma has fluffy legs, which is really cute. The Brahma is going to be a big chick. She's going to be a big girl. Whereas the Black Copper Morans is a tiny chick, and so yeah, some chicks are gonna grow out of the height before others. So there you are. Motion cap pics of hummingbirds are fan. That is, so you know, it's the #ChickTweets, I think. Let me see what I called it. Sorry, it's Chick Update. #ChickUpdate. That's what we're calling it. I hope the dog is not interested in the chickens. No, Not really. I mean, he's kind of interested, but not a huge amount. So there we have it. So the other thing I was going to show you guys, hopefully, is a bit of an update on what's going on with the chicks, with the chicks' house even. So we've got a few more minutes of battery power here. So let me see if I can grab the Ethernet cable. Let's see if this works. I'm going to pull. I'm going to see what happens. Outside. So we are now outside. And oh, my wife has just done some sushi ban. What is it called? We're going to make a separate Twitter account for that, for the chicks, and if eventually what we can do is we will set this up. So oh gosh, we will set this up so that it we'll set it up so it's a separate account on Twitter. So over here you can see my vegetable pots for the first time. We've got some cucumbers, and then we've got some garlic and some tomatoes over there. That entire bed is all not sprouting yet. There are some carrots on the far end. We've got some potatoes and some lettuce and some herbs in the far corner, and we've got some strawberries. But this is the coop. This is what my wife has been busy working on. So this stuff is effectively burnt, purposely burnt, and it's a way of sealing the wood, right?
Preserving.
It's a way of sealing and preserving the wood, so that it doesn't get rotten. And then we're going to put the roof on today or tomorrow. Hopefully today. Put the roof on, and then they've got this nice little run. And we'll probably put this, not this camera, but the one I showed you in the other room. We'll probably put the camera in here once they go in. And I'm going to make a little permanent camera for the chickens. And they've got a little space under here. Obviously we're going to put hardware cloth through. This is going to be their roost bars here. This is going to be their nesting boxes where they're going to lay their eggs. This will be their little door that they can get out and get into the run. Now, interestingly, we're going to have a door here so we can open it up on this side, and then this is going to be a drop down door so that we can clean it out. We're going to go for a deep litter method, which is fairly normal over here in the States for chickens these days, and they will eventually be free ranging, so that when I'm at home we're going to be pretty good. My friend had a small one till his wife and the neighbours made him get rid of it. Well, that's bigger than my studio apartment. Lucky chickens. Everything in the US is huge. It's not really huge. It's not particularly huge. But I'm very proud of my wife for making it. She's doing an amazing job. So, thank you, honey. So there you have it. I'm going to say goodbye now. I hope that you enjoyed the stream. Thank you for joining me. We'll be back tomorrow on the main channel with normal stuff. If you want to support us, please do. Patreon, Ko-fi would be really, really helpful. We are starting to struggle a little bit in terms of just keeping the income coming in. If you can't support us just financially, please just support us the way you're doing now.